People who spend a lot of time in the wilderness or other isolated places, what is your scariest experience with another human being? My buddies and I would hit up the desert at night and go four-wheeling on the trails. This one night we had stopped for a break and this guy rolls up on us. Asked if he wanted to join us. We continue riding and I was second to last, with him being the last one. We were pretty familiar with the trails, so I kept looking back checking in on him, not knowing how familiar he was or experienced rider he was. As we're approaching the hill that overlooks most of the area, I look back and he's gone. I flag my buddies down and we go back to look for him. Nothing. We go up the hill, kill our engines and listen for his bike or look for his lights. It was pitch black and not a sound. From the hill I'm sure you could see for a few miles, but there was no trace of him. We looked for him or his bike till about 3 a.m. and were unsuccessful. It still kinda bugs me that a guy just vanished like that. I hope nothing happened to the dude. Edit. This was maybe 12-ish years back in El Paso, Texas. A lot of the riding desert areas have become heavily populated by now. We were scared out of our minds, so our last though was to call the cops. None of us had actually talked to the guy. He just rolled up on us. We asked him if he wanted to ride with us and he just nodded yes. We watched the news like hawks for weeks after to see if there was a body found or something and nothing. It's kinda probable that it was a drug runner, being that it was in a border town. Hiking off the main trail along a river when I notice some sweaty older dude in an open Hawaiian shirt has followed me into the woods. I press on until reaching a steep bank and an impasse and turn to head out, past him. I swerve through a canebrake to avoid walking by him, but he still stops to ask, "Hey, looking for a good time?" I said, "Fuck no," and nope the fuck out of there. There is why I check tail reviews now. I wound up searching for geocaches in a popular gay cruising spot with my ex and her little brother one time. Nothing says awkward like walking around the trails with a bunch of mostly married looking middle-aged dudes intently refreshing Craigslist. This was pre-Grindr. Was hitchhiking in Greece, got dropped off at a crucial fork in the road for my journey in the middle of the night by a super nice guy. He was going the other way. Had to camp for the night in the middle of nowhere and start again in the morning. His were the only headlights I saw from getting out of his vehicle to walking a half mile into the woods. I set up camp, had some whiskey, and started to doze off. Before I could, I heard footsteps coming towards me. I am freaking out. I hear someone right outside of my tent. I yell, "I have a weapon," and start to open the tent and they bolt. I see a figure running back towards the road. I closed the tent, and stayed awake for 8 hours until the sun came up, fighting a sleep-deprived drunken sleepiness the whole night. It was the worst night of my life, but I never saw whoever it was again. So scary. What kind of crazed fucking lunatic would have been out there? Either the super nice guy who had a family he was going home to and decided to come back to kill me, or someone who lived 50 miles from the closest town and saw someone walk into the woods and decided to be creepy. Out in the boonies about to do some shooting in the woods, truck comes over the ridge on a one-lane logging road. Seeing the oncoming vehicle, we pull over as far as possible to allow them to pass. They do not pass. They pull up as close to my vehicle as possible, I mean inches if that, kept our rigs from touching. Two country-ass dudes in ragged clothes drinking beer with rifles across their laps. The back of the truck is full of lumber. This was a logging area. We say hello. Silence. Ask if they are shooting. Silence. They do nothing but sit quietly and stare at us. Then a dozen vehicles come over the ridge in a line. These vehicles are packed with lumber, minivans with the bucket seats full. A Honda Civic with the back seat, shotgun and trunk teeming with lumber, all of which is being illegally stolen from the lumber company that felled the trees but hasn't transported them. Literally felonious amounts of lumber being stolen, and we are the only witnesses, out of cell range in the middle of nowhere. My buddy has his handgun drawn and low, mine is pressed to my car door pointed right at these guys. We sit in complete silence till the final car passes. They drive off without a word. I got a membership to arrange the next week. Fuck country-ass places. I was on my wife's family's ranch, which is about 1,000 acres. I was scouting deer as it was deer season. I had my rifle slung on my back as I was walking through the woods. As I walk out of the woods onto one of our two dirt roads into the property, I saw two strangers sitting on the back bed of their white pickup truck. They had rifles in their hands. I approached them with a friendly wave. As I approached them, I kept my rifle slung on my back so to not threaten them. I asked them how they are doing and what are they hunting. They said they were doing fine and looking for deer. I then noticed 6 or 7 beer cans on the ground. They asked me the same thing and I told them that I was good and scouting deer as well. Here comes the hard part. I asked them how they got onto the property. They began to mumble and ask me the same question. I politely told them that my wife's family owns the property. I then told them that they should leave. I told them to have a great day and started walking backwards. After about 20 yards I turn around and start walking very briskly. I heard one shot in my direction. I hit the ground behind a bush and another shot rings out. I hear that whiz. I immediately position myself to fire on them. I see one guy packing up his gun into the back bed of the truck. I take aim at his right leg and fire. I get up and start running into the woods. I hear screaming. After 20 minutes I get back to my Tahoe and call the game warden and local sheriff. They come out after about 30 minutes and these poachers were gone. I told them all the details and descriptions and said I think I shot one in the leg. Next day I get a call from the sheriff saying they had a guy in the local ER with a gunshot wound to the leg. He sent me a pic via text. It was the guy I shot. He survived and got 4 years in prison because this was his first felony. They never found the other guy. Were these guys scoped? I'm surprised they missed you. Do you think they were just that drunk? Most likely drunk, thankfully. Isn't that attempted murder? Only 4 years? The guy had a perfect record and as one individual pointed out they could not prove that he was trying to kill me. I used to often spend my summers bouldering with my friends by a relatively large forest that was about an hour and a half away from where I used to live. We used to spend some of the nights camping out there just to save some travel costs and time. Anyway, I think this was roughly like the third or fourth time we were out there camping. My friend had left all her climbing gear and her rucksack just outside her tent, or we definitely think she did anyway. The next morning we found her boots, a few clothes and all her chalk powder had disappeared. We figured that it could have been completely feasible that she misplaced it. Although we were quite sure that they were next to her tent, we didn't really want to believe that they were stolen. Anyway, we didn't read too much into this and just stupidly said to ourselves that perhaps she had left it by the boulders and some animal took an interest to it. I know it sounds stupid, but it was very reasonable to us at the time. Anyway, fast forward a year, we're at the same spot as usual, sitting by the tents and chilling after having some food. Mind you, it's pitch black out, and only the camp area is lit by the fire. I go somewhere a bit out of sight for a slash, and what do I see? A dude in a full-on ghillie suit laying on his stomach looking right towards our campsite. I kinda stood there frozen as this dude clocks that I've seen him and he just bolts it out of there. I don't know whether the event of the year prior was related to the ghillie guy, but this definitely has stuck to all of us. We haven't been back there since, which is a damn shame. This is the creepiest story here. A ghillie suit? What a weirdo. Was he armed or anything? I don't think so. It looked like he ran off with both of his hands free, but I can't really remember that clearly. I was tremendously shocked at the time, and completely sober too. He didn't leave anything behind either after he left. It was fucking scary, dude. We didn't camp anywhere for a while after that. I'm a geologist. I did my graduate field work in western Nevada. The first time I crossed a range that I assumed only a handful of humans had crossed, and saw a hand-built shack with a legit mountain man out front, I kind of lost my shit. After a while I became to appreciate running into these off-the-grid folk. Then one day I crossed a mountain range, was walking up on what looked like some kind of farm. As I got closer I could smell it. Outdoor weed farm on Bureau of Land Management land. I immediately freaked out, hit the ground, and tried to scurry out of there. On my way out I was confronted by a man with what appeared to be an AR-10 or 15. I was carrying a sidearm for animals, cougars and whatnot, but not in a position to pull it. He offered me $10,000 to not report it and let me go. Never collected the $10,000 or reported it, too scared to do either. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. I camped in Northern California with a couple friends for 3 months straight in 2012. We're talking way out in the wilderness. The whole trip was a great success until we were heading south again. We set up camp a few miles outside of a tiny town as it was getting dark. The only things in this town were one long road, a gas station, a post office, and a bar. In the middle of the night we hear screaming in the distance. We could discern 3 different voices, but they were far enough away we couldn't quite make out what was being said. All of a sudden we hear a single gunshot followed by absolute silence. I opened my tent and looked over at my friends who were looking back at me. None of us said a word. We laid back down and tried to sleep. Scariest night of my life. Edit. A lot of people are wondering if we reported this to police. What police? You need to understand that in this area one sheriff patrols 3 counties. That's it. This area of Cali is what Sons of Anarchy was based on. I know that was TV and was dramatized, but there is some truth to what goes on in these areas. The sheriff is most likely in the pockets of the drug runners. It is in your best interest to put your head down and mind your own damn business unless you want to be next. We were kids with no resources, backpacks and tents, hitchhiking through the Northwest. It would have been so easy to make us disappear next. I am in a search and rescue unit and have had some rather interesting experiences. I'll share one about a man that I never actually encountered, and that's what makes it strange. We got called out to this search Sunday afternoon to a fairly popular state park that has both backcountry and front country trails. Two guys were hiking one of the backcountry trails, when one of them starts to feel a little off. They know they are close to their car, around 1.5 miles, so the one that's feeling fine tells the other one to wait there while he hikes to the car and back to get some medication. When he returns, his friend is gone. It had been maybe 4 or 5 hours since the missing person was last seen to when I showed up on site. I was one of the first to show up to the search among a few other friends on my team. Most of us, including my unit coordinator, were thinking that this would be a quick search. The guy hasn't been lost that long. It's a fairly popular park. He was last seen not too far from here. They were on a clearly blazed trail, etc. So, we get sent out on a hasty search. Basically a search in high probability areas, not an area search, where large swaths of area are covered. Near the point last seen, I spotted a phone along with some other items about 10 meters off the trail. This was my first real find of evidence on any search I'd been on, so I was pretty proud of myself. After confirming the phone belonged to our subject, we thought, okay, we found his phone, this is going to wrap up within the next half hour or so. Boy were we wrong. The search continued through the evening. More ground units arrived. Mounted, horse, units arrived and cleared mile upon mile of trail. Air scent and trailing K9s showed up. Units from other counties showed up. Park rangers searched continuously. The search continued through the night, the next morning, all day, another night, and another 2 days after that. I can't remember the statics that my unit coordinator told us, but thousands of man-hours were out into that search. Acres upon acres of land were covered. But the subject was never found, and as of writing this, as far as I know, has yet to be located. We were all very surprised to turn up empty-handed while we all thought the search would be over quickly. Among the items found with the phone was a bag and straw. After testing these objects in a lab, it was found that certain substances may have been used by the subject, the effects of which can cause paranoia. This might cause a subject who would otherwise be responsive to be unresponsive or, even worse, evasive. Moral of the story is, don't do meth, but if you are going to do meth, don't do it while you are hiking or camping. Please forgive typos, I'm on mobile. My wife would go on a yearly vintage motorcycle rally with a bunch of other riders. A few of them rode old Vespa scooters. If you know these bikes, they only have 10-inch wheels at best. They had ridden hundreds of miles into the California backcountry, taking logging roads. As they rode deeper into the woods, the going got rough. Concrete turned to gravel, gravel to dirt, dirt to mud. Eventually, giant ruts started opening up in the road. The ruts started getting too wide and too deep for everyone to ride through. The bikes were bottoming out. They were already several miles into the route and the map showed it was a shorter route out the other side than to turn around. Low on fuel, the group decided to split up on foot at a fork to try and find the easiest way out. Time passed and the going was slow. It began to get dark. Most of the larger bikes had moved on and their numbers were few. Eventually the full dark of night descended on them and they had to navigate by flashlight. They did their best not to panic, but they were out in the middle of nowhere, with no cell reception, covered in mud, hiking uneven terrain, with no overnight gear and little food. Eventually, as she was walking down the road with a couple fellow riders, she sees another flashlight flick on in their direction off in the woods ahead of them. Cue the classic horror movie scene. Hello? They call. The flashlight fucking turns off. They got the hell out of there and everyone rode back the way they came in. A pack of bikers inexplicably walking around the middle of nowhere at night is astronomically scarier than a single person who turns off their flashlight once they see a fucking horde of murderers coming their way. I was the scary person, unintentionally. One day as an 18-year-old I decided to go smoke a joint by the river. It was far enough out of town on a weekday so I didn't expect to run into anyone, but I've always been paranoid so I decided to take a large hatchet I kept in my van with me. My van was decked out with heavy metal band stickers, unwashed and beat up. I also am a relatively big guy and at the time was wearing one of my favorite shirts from the movie House of 1000 Corpses, which said, gas, food, murder, in large letters on the back. I smoked my doobie in my van by the river and then decided to walk around the parking lot with my hatchet. As I get to the middle of the parking lot, I hear a vehicle coming and think, oh shit, I better hide this hatchet, so I hold it behind my back. The vehicle was another minivan, decidedly more soccer momish, with a family that had young children inside. As I'm staring at them through my marijuana-induced stupor, Mom floors it, does a U-turn and speeds off out of the area. The area I was at was about half a mile off the highway, so I know they weren't just going down there to turn around. I got this uneasy feeling I needed to leave the area ASAP, so I did. As I was back on the highway, 2 sheriff's deputy cruisers went flying by me in the direction towards the river area. Maybe it was a coincidence. My husband and I hiked the approach trail to Springer Mountain several years back, planning to summit and return to the bottom and camp. It's summer, like 90 degrees, and besides a few trail runners early in the day, we really see no one else. It takes a few hours longer than we anticipated and we are beat. Also, because of the way my leggings rubbed, I have the worst chafing imaginable and just do not want to hike down again. We set up to cook dinner and a man comes from the opposite direction toward the summit. My husband strikes up a conversation and the man agrees to give us a ride back to the park where we started. We throw our packs into his trunk, but I keep my cell phone in hand, even though it is nearly dead and I have no signal. The guy had said he knew the way to the park and could get us back quickly, but then, suddenly he has taken a wrong turn, and now he has to turn around. Something about his story does not add up during the entire ride. He says his wife is in labor with their first child, but he had to get away for a bit, take a hike to clear his mind, etc. Okay, whatever, maybe he is nervous, it happens. He just kind of rambles about weird things and then realizes, oh, wait, I've taken another wrong turn. We turn onto a road and there is this old house and he wants us to get out and look at it. Won't take no for an answer. Then it gets really weird. He asks if he can take pictures of us in front of this house, standing on the porch, sitting. He is in full photo shoot mode. I want you to look happy. Now I want you to look angry, etc. We get back to the car, I'm thoroughly creeped out. He is Sheldon Cooper, in Ted Bundy form. He tells my husband that his car is running hot and needs some water to cool it down. He has some in the trunk if my husband wouldn't mind getting it for him. I instinctively hop out with my husband because no way am I getting left in this car if the guy is trying to split us up. We put the water in and away we go. I am telling my husband in the car how we had to meet so and so tomorrow morning. We made plans, whatever I can, just so this man takes the hint that someone knows where we are and had plans to see us the next day. Our location was known, exact plans were not to anyone but us, we weren't meeting anyone. I am fantastically relieved when I finally see that we are finally nearing where we park our car in the park. When we finally find it, this man will not leave while we are putting our packs and things into the car, asking our plans, etc. He asks for my phone number and I give it to him off by 1 digit. I tell my husband to go into the hotel and get us a room for the night so that we can rest. Our plan is to actually wait until he is gone and we will get a campsite. The man says, well, they have a really great dinner, I will follow you inside and see about that. I lock myself in the car and my husband delivers some spiel to the desk attendant about us needing to book a campsite, something, can we drive around and look for an empty one? He was feeling extremely skeptical about the situation too. His plan was to say we were booking a site, wait for this guy to leave and return to the hotel later where the guy wouldn't know our room or anything. We drive to the farthest lowest point of the campground and sit for nearly 2 hours. It's getting dark, we are tired. We finally decide to drive through the camping area and to the hotel. Surely this guy has gone. As we drive past the tents we see his car just sitting and waiting where he has full view of the camping area but can also see the hotel parking. My husband pulls a U-turn and we book it nearly 2 hours from the park and find the worst, cheapest hotel. To this day we swear that we dodged a bullet. This man could have committed the nearly perfect crime if he had picked us up from the top of the mountain and we just never returned to our car. The fact that he was waiting on us when we returned sealed it for us that this guy really had some major, horrible plan for us in mind. I hope you said something to the police. Something about this was really strange and obviously a bad scene. If you have any unsolved homicides you may want to have a look at this guy's license plate number. We did not, and looking back I am not sure why. I guess my brain was just in fight or flight. My phone was half dead / dying and my husband's was dead, and we had no signal because of where we were at. This was 4 years ago and we knew the make and model of car, and I believe I had known a partial license plate. I don't think we ever got a name, he did not offer his cell phone. I no longer have the phone but I also probably had a picture of the car. You guys did a great job getting out of there safely. I'm glad you concentrated on your own safety. I wish we, in the US at least, had a focus on preventative measures as well. It's awkward to think about how you'd report something that didn't happen but was concerning. I did go back through some Facebook and Instagram photos and things, and I actually did have a picture of the house we stopped at. I was attempting to help him GPS our way to the park and snap the pic. There may have even been pictures of the car or of him walking around on the summit of Springer, because I do have the pictures of the plaque and the view from the top. Hindsight is so much clearer. Also, after viewing the pictures, I have an exact date and almost a time. We picked up Taco Bell in town and called it our glad we weren't dead celebratory meal. I guess we could have reported him just for being sketchy and giving us bad vibes, but I am not sure that would have accomplished much.